I'll call the March 1st Towamencin Government Study Meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Opening comments. This meeting of the Government Study Commission is being provided via Zoom for the public unable to attend in person and who wish to view and hear the meeting live. The purpose of this study is to explore the ways Home Rule could change the outcome of the pending sewer sale, explore the ways Home Rule could add citizen participation through referenda, and explore the ways Home Rule could add transparency to Towamencin's operations. Public comment received by 6 p.m. the day of the meeting will be read during the agenda item they address or during the open public comment period. For those present, a public comment period will be available before voting items. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes each. In addition, a public comment period will be available at the end of the agenda, and we ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes during this time as well. Next on the agenda is approval of the February 15th minutes. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays or abstention? None, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Marty?
Sure. We have two new expenses. There is another Zoom bill came in. I guess this is for up through March 27th. That came in. I'll be sending that to the township tomorrow. And I wanted to get approval for that. Well, no, we already have approval for that. That we previously did the 6 month, approved the 6 month expenditures for the website and the Zoom. So no approval necessary, just a notification. There were two printing costs that I submitted from our last meeting. There were copies run and also for tonight. So those that was about just under 1,000 copies, and that comes to approximately $110. So I need approval for those two expenditures, and that's it.
Would someone like to make that motion?
Motion. Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Would anyone from the public like to make a public comment on our spending? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? None, motion carries.
Okay, so that takes us to the public hearing portion of this evening's agenda. First thing, I would ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
Motion. Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this is a public hearing of the Towamencin Township Government Study Commission. The purpose of this hearing is to receive comments and recommendations of the interested individuals residing within the municipality regarding the draft home rule charter for Towamencin Township, the draft report of Towamencin Township Government Study Commission, and a draft of the ballot question. This meeting was duly advertised on February 16th and 22nd, 2023 in the Reporter. For identification this evening, I'm going to mark the proof of publication of the notice for tonight's hearing as Commission Exhibit 1, a copy of the Government Study Report as Commission Exhibit 2, a copy of the Home Rule Charter as Commission Exhibit 3, and a copy of the ballot question as Commission Exhibit 4. All three documents are available at the front of the room for any individuals that would like copies. In a few moments, I will ask the chair to proceed with the public hearing. The chair will review the drafts of the reference documents. After that, the commission members will then have the opportunity to discuss the documents and offer any proposed amendments. After that discussion, the chair will open the meeting for public comment. The commission's rules for public comment as adopted will remain in place, except that all public comment for all of the documents will be taken at once. After the conclusion of public comment and any further discussion among the commissioners, the hearing will be closed and the commission will vote on three individual motions related to the charter, the report, and the ballot question. No additional public comment will be taken prior to the call of each motion. So if any member of the public wishes to comment or offer recommendations, they should do so during the public comment portion of this public hearing. We do have a court reporter here this evening. She can only take down one person's comments at a time. So I would ask that if you are offering public comment, you proceed to the microphone so that everybody can hear your comments and that you try to avoid talking over each other and talking over members of the commission. A back and forth makes her job much, much easier. Likewise, please avoid shouting out from the back. It's difficult for anyone to hear you. It's difficult for the court reporter to do her job. And it's difficult for the commission to respond to such comments. Should the motions be adopted this evening, the commission will submit the documents to the township secretary for transmission to the Board of Elections. And with that, I will turn it over to the chair.
Thank you. Nirol, could you pull up the presentation, please? Next slide, please. So this presentation that we've been giving updates to is a summary of the study we've done so far, as well as the charter draft. The timeline of the government study, this government study election was initiated via petition, and those signatures were submitted on August 8th to the Board of Elections. Election day for this government study was November 8th, 2022. And Towamencin voters approved the government study and elected 7 commissioners. On December 6th, 2022, we had our organization meeting. The commission took oaths of office and set our remaining schedule. On March 1st, which is today, we're having a public hearing, and the commission will vote on sending a charter to the county. And if that is approved, a finalized version of the report will be mailed after the March 15th meeting, once we approve this spending. On April 24th, 2023, we will have a town hall for questions or comments ahead of the election. And on May 16th, 2023, that is election day, the primary ballot, where the charter would be presented to voters if we approve that motion today. Next slide, please. Function and duty of the Government Study Commission. The Government Study Commission shall study the form of government of the municipality to compare it with other available forms under the laws of this Commonwealth and determine whether or not, in its judgment, the government could be strengthened or made more clearly responsible or accountable to the people, or whether its operation could become more economical or efficient under a changed form of government. And that is Title 53, Section 2918. Next slide, please. And that charge does give the commission a lot of discretion. So we chose to set a statement of purpose at our organization meeting, and that is read at the beginning of each meeting. The purpose of the study is to explore the ways home rule could change the outcome of the pending sewer sale, explore the ways home rule could add citizen participation through referenda, and explore the ways home rule could add transparency to Towaменcin's operations. Next slide, please. And the activities of the study. We've attended Board of Supervisors and advisory committee meetings. We hosted interviews and presentations at our public meetings. We've reviewed the Class 2 Township Code and other state laws. We've reviewed other municipalities' charters. We've reviewed how other states approach municipal issues. We've been monitoring feedback on the commission's work. We've been talking to our solicitors about the legal feasibility of charter provisions, and we've toured the sewer plant. Next slide, please. Concern number one, the sewer sale is neither necessary nor popular. The source of the concern was the public discourse surrounding the sewer sale decision. The solution we came up with was to prohibit sewer privatization. The source of the solution was the asset purchase agreement, the city of Baltimore's charter, and our solicitor's opinion. And Baltimore is the first city to have such a privatization ban in their charter. And the difference from the current form of government, the township would no longer be able to privatize water, wastewater, or stormwater systems. Next slide, please. And to be clear, the sewer system has not been sold. My household received a sewer bill yesterday, and it does still have the Towamencin seal on it. So Towamencin does still own the sewer system. NextEra does not have a certificate of public convenience from the PUC, which means they are not a wastewater utility in Pennsylvania. NextEra has not been approved by the DEP to implement our Act 537 plan. NextEra has not even filed a PUC application to be approved to acquire our sewer system. The entire contract is contingent on all governmental approvals. Next slide, please. And the abbreviated problems with the sewer sale. It is an unnecessary decision made without popular support. It would cost ratepayers $9 million a year in excess sewer rates if we sell, which is greater than the stated $3.5 million a year in benefits. Individual households could see triple rates with that $9 million number. And it's a permanent decision without recourse if it goes wrong. There's been comments that people would have preferred to elect different supervisors, but even if we change the entire board of supervisors, there's no going back on this decision. Next slide, please. How to fund the township projects without the sale. We could increase property taxes, which is the standard assumption. That is usually the approach the supervisors take to increase funding. We could implement a stormwater fee, which is practically a tax on impervious surfaces. We could sell the sewer system to a governmental entity. Our sewer's face value, which is about $23.5 million, is enough to reset our township debt. We could have an open space referendum to increase the earned income tax, and we could amend the charter to allow taxes prohibited by Class 2 restrictions. And if you're asking me personally what I would do, I think the selling to another governmental entity, implementing a stormwater fee, and slowly over a course of a few decades, increasing property taxes makes the most sense. Next slide, please. The Board of Supervisors shall be charged with the general governance of the township and the execution of legislative, executive, and administrative powers in order to ensure sound fiscal management and to secure the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the township. And that is the second-class township code, section 607. It is not inherently the Government Study Commission's job to make plans for the township's finances. That is explicitly the Board of Supervisors' jobs. There have been some government studies that work with their governing bodies to make these types of plans. But at the end of the day, the governing body is the one that levies taxes. If you look at Allentown's charter, they had a very fiscally focused government study. But a few years ago, they had a pretty high tax increase, even though they had charter provisions that encouraged slow tax increases. Next slide, please. Concern number 2. There's not much wrong with our current form of government. The source of the concern was public comment and other feedback. the solution was to default charter provisions to the Class 2 Township Code. And the source of the solution was Plymouth Township's charter and the Home Rule Town Handbook. The difference from the form of government would be none unless stated in the charter. And when you look at the types of amendments that have happened in Montgomery County charters, both of them have been to update the bidding limits. So both in Norristown and Horsham, I think they both did it in 2012 to update their bidding limits from the 10,000. I think the state government updated it to 18,000. Those type of charter amendments wouldn't happen in the charter as drafted because we tie our powers to the state laws. Next slide, please. In a survey of different structures of local government, there's the council manager form of government, elected council as legislative body, and a hired manager as the executive body. It is seen in the Class 1 and 2 Township Code, and that is what we are now. We are a township of the second class. There is the city manager form of government, an elected council as the legislative body, hired manager as the executive body, and a ceremonial elected mayor. That is seen in the borough code, like municipalities like Lansdale. And then there's the mayor council, elected council as the legislative body, and mayor with some executive power, optional hired manager. That is seen in city codes and in many home rule charters. And then there's the town hall form of government, where every citizen is a part of the legislative body, and citizens would be voting at meetings like this, and is seen in small municipalities in New England. Next slide, please. Concern number 3-1, there isn't enough direct democracy in Towamencin. The source of the concern was historical Towamencin civic events, namely this sewer cell situation and the bridge to nowhere situation. The solution was to add initiative and referendum provisions to the charter. And the source of that solution was the Home Rule Handbook, other charters, and other states. The Home Rule Handbook does reference most charters having some sort of referendum or initiative provision, and other states are much more generous with their statewide initiative and referendum procedures compared to Pennsylvania. And the difference between that and our current form of government is a broader possible use of ballot questions. Next slide, please. Concern 3-2 that comes up from the first third concern. The initiative and referendum would bog down Towamencin's operations. The source of the concern was feedback to the commission in public comment. The solution is a high 15% petition threshold. We have referendum exemptions, and we have a requirement to have public meetings for ballot questions. The source of the solution was other home rule municipalities that have a similarly high petition threshold, the Board of Supervisors meeting attendance, and state laws that require public meetings for various decisions. The difference from the current form of government depends on how in sync the Board of Supervisors are with resident will. And to kind of explain what that means is to get 15% of registered voters to sign a piece of paper in 30 days, you would have to be very organized. And to win the ballot question, you would also have to be very organized. So any decision that's made through referendum, I think, should be interpreted as the will of Towamencin. Next slide, please. Concern number 4, there isn't enough transparency, and the source of the concern was feedback to commission. The solution we came up with was minor digital transparency requirements. The source of the solution was other municipalities, not necessarily home rule, but some other municipalities in the area have much more information on their websites. The difference from the current form of government, the township would be required to put more information on the website. Next slide, please. And the preamble from our charter. We, the people of Towamencin Township in Montgomery County, under authority granted by the Constitution and the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to adopt home rule charters, do hereby ordain and adopt this home rule charter to establish a council manager form of government with full rights of local self-government. We do so primarily to reaffirm our right to public ownership of water, wastewater, and storm sewer systems as given to us in Article 1, Section 27 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Next slide, please. And summary of the charter so far. Article 1 is the construction of the charter. Section 106 defaults the township provisions to the Class 2 Township Code. So again, nothing would really change if we adopt this charter. Article 2 defines the elected offices, no changes from the Class 2 Township Code. Article 3 defines the financial procedures, no changes from the Class 2 Township Code, and explicitly retains limitations on the rates of taxation. Article 4 defines the initiative and referendum procedures, gives the residents the power to initiate proposed ordinances, gives residents the power to initiate reconsideration of ordinances within 30 days of enactment, and gives the township the power to put ordinances directly on the ballot. Section 408 requires referendums for asset sales or leases to non-governmental entities that would result in the township receiving compensation exceeding 25% of budgeted revenue. Next slide, please. Article 4 has exemptions. That is the budget or capital program, personnel compensation, emergencies, elections, township powers preempted by home rule, initiative or referendum that would otherwise violate state laws if passed. Article 5 is the transparency article, has light provisions surrounding digital availability of some information that is otherwise public, ballot question public meetings with mailed advertisement, and the new section, we allowed the petition committee 10 minutes to motivate ballot questions every time there's one of those ballot question public meetings. Article 6 is the right to public ownership of water. It prohibits the sale or long-term lease of water, wastewater, or stormwater systems. We added Section 604 to clarify the township's actions if it wants to sell to a governmental entity. Article 7 is the general provisions, transition, severability, amendments, and the July 1st effective date. And those amendments are defined in state law and outside of the charter. Next slide, please. And we wanted to add this amendment to the charter, Section 605, in regards to the North Penn Water Authority. The provisions of this charter shall not apply to the North Penn Water Authority or any future proposed sale, transfer, or lease of its assets, except that to the extent that the North Penn Water Authority's articles of incorporation, as they exist now or as they may be amended in the future, require the township's approval for the sale, transfer, or lease of the assets of the North Penn Water Authority. The township shall be prohibited from approving or supporting the sale, transfer, or lease of the assets of the North Penn Water Authority to a non-governmental entity as set herein. Nothing herein shall be construed to require the dissolution or reincorporation of the North Penn Water Authority or the township's withdrawal therefrom, or from prohibiting the township from satisfying its obligations with regard to the articles of incorporation. If the North Penn Water Authority is dissolved and any portion of its assets are transferred or sold to the township, the provisions of this charter shall apply. Next slide, please. And we also came up with a few non-charter recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. Take better public input. This government study was initiated via petition directly in response to the sewer cell. If we had some more polling or public meetings related to the sewer cell, we might not be here. And if the charter is adopted, we would suggest exiting the sewer cell contract. And we're also suggesting to update the comprehensive and strategic plans more frequently, so township residents are a bit more aware of what financial problems that the township may face. To the General Assembly, we would recommend them to update the Sunshine Act for digital transparency, allow for broader initiative and referendum, and to fix our utility laws. And to residents, we would recommend to pay attention to local decisions. Next slide, please. And that's it. And would any of the other commissioners have questions or comments on where the charter or report is right now?
No, not specifically on this. That was a great presentation. Thanks, Kofi. What I do want to mention to everyone, and I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. This is great to see so many people here, so thank you. I just wanted to mention that we do have all of this on our website. So if you haven't been able to go there, I would encourage you to do so. It's towamencingsc.org. The draft charters are there. The draft report is there. Everything is there for you to see. It is not on the township's website. We were not permitted to use the township's website, so you can get it off of our website. That's the only thing I wanted to add.
And then as far as changes to the report that we need to add the dates as far as when we actually publish the final report. We need to include the final version of the charter inside of the report, and we promise to include a flow chart for the referendum procedures inside of the report. Anyone else have any comments or amendments to the charter or report?
And just to be clear, the version of the charter that's being discussed this evening is the charter that's on the website plus the section 605 that you read into the record earlier.
Yes, thank you. I will open the floor to public comment.
Before we get started on public comment, there's just one other matter.
Yes. So to read the ballot question, shall the home rule charter contained in the report dated on the date we choose of the Government Study Commission prepared in accordance with the home rule charter and optional plans law be adopted by the second class township of Towamencin? And our interpretive statement, if the majority of voters choose yes, a new home rule charter would be adopted by Towamencin Township on July 1st, 2023. Should the majority of voters choose no, the existing second class township code and all its existing provisions will remain in effect. And I will open the floor to public comment. Would anyone like to make a public comment? This hearing is the public comment for the 3 motions on the agenda.
Hi, I'm Kristen Warner, resident of Towamencin Township. This book here is our code as a Class 2 township. Represents 150 years of our township's existence as a Class 2 township. And, you know, it's been amended over the years. It's done well for our township. This represents a supposed study that was done. They were sworn in January, and it's March 1st. We have monthly meetings twice a month. We have a budget period in October, during which time we meet once a week, every week. The meetings run from about 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock at night because we hear presentations from all of the committees in the township. They haven't experienced that process. This is our financial statements and supplementary information that is audited by an outside audit agency. They haven't experienced that process. I don't know how they can sit up there and say that they understand how our township runs and that they know what's best for our township. They're basing all of this on one very small part of our overall budget. And I think it's a foolish exercise to go forward with this at this point. The ballot question was, do you want a home rule study? And yes, the majority asked for a home rule study. The DCED is the overseeing entity that guides this process in Pennsylvania. They had a representative come to one of our meetings. I don't know how many people were in attendance at that meeting, but Mr. Chapman, who's been with the DCED for multiple decades, spent about 45 minutes advising the committee on how they should go forward with this study. And they haven't done much of what he recommended. He must have said it 9, 10, maybe a dozen times that the average study is at least 9 months. And he recommended over and over and over again that you spend at least 9 months. And he even mentioned that that is even
30 seconds,
kind of
please.
tight. So I would suggest to our residents that they really think hard on this issue. I understand that people are upset about the sewer. We are a democratic republic, not a democracy. And one of the reasons that we're a democratic republic is because you elect people to pay attention to the details, to attend the meetings, to understand the entire picture of the township and make decisions based on the entire picture of the township. And that's what we've done with this as our guide. It's very structured. Thank you.
Just before you get started, there have been several comments at the last meeting and then again this evening regarding Mr. Chapman from DCED. Mr. Chapman stated several times throughout his presentation that he is not an attorney and he was not offering legal advice to the commission or any members of the public, and deferred all legal opinions to the commission solicitor. We have reviewed the process that has been conducted by this commission. It is compliant with the law. And so again, Mr. Chapman was very clear that the 9 months is not mandatory. It is what's permitted by the statute, but it is certainly not required. Again, we've reviewed this and it is compliant with the law.
Hey, good evening, Richard Marino, Boyd Avenue, Township Resident, current supervisor. I just have a couple of questions regarding the initiative and referendum, Article 4. There are some exemptions listed, but it wasn't mentioned specifically. But in the opinion of this commission, will the referendum process be allowed to amend zoning or saldo ordinances? That might be a question for your solicitor more so, but it doesn't really address zoning or saldo in particular. And I was just wondering how the referendum process would apply to those two things.
It could apply to any ordinance except for the exemptions that are listed in the charter. This charter does not address zoning or saldo at all. But if there is a referendum and it's not excluded here, then that's because it is permitted to be done by referendum. The exceptions here are things that are excluded by law that are not permitted to be done by referendum.
So I guess that would be a yes, though there could be a referendum on a zoning ordinance or a land use or land development ordinance could be subject to referendum.
Zoning is exempted from home rule in state law.
I'm sorry, say it again, please.
Zoning is exempted from home rule in state law because of the Municipalities Planning Act. So Horsham they attempted to have a referendum on zoning and they weren't allowed to because of state law.
I just wanted to
Right.
clarify that.
Right, the last section F here is anything that would violate applicable laws.
Okay,
So that's exempt.
thank you. And the second just really has to do with more of a comment, but the purpose of the town hall in April, North Penn High School. It seems to me if it's a bit of a fait accompli at this point, because you're going to vote on it tonight. It's going to go on to the ballot. What's the purpose of the town hall?
Yeah.
Having taken place after the vote.
Our office exists until the ballot question happens. So the purpose of the town hall was just to answer any last minute questions if anyone wanted any clarifying questions before casting their vote.
Thank you very much.
Shannon Main, I'm a Towamencin taxpayer. So in regards to the study, I understand that it complies with the law, but we are doing the very minimum requirement per the law. So the very minimum requirement is this hearing and one town hall. And I think that we are definitely rushing this through. In regards to the amendment process, I know that Kofi just gave his opinion to Mr. Marino, but I would like to hear more information from the solicitor as regard to the amendment process. Because as I've read in the Home Rule Handbook on page 50 through 53, it says the experience of charter amendments indicates charters have been nearly inflexible nor poorly drawn as to require extensive amendments. So we keep mentioning this amendment process, which I think is what's going to happen here in Towamencin, in my opinion. We had Franklin City recommended 23 amendments to their charter in one single proposed vote. Did my mic go off? Franklin City did 23 amendments in one single proposed vote. In Lehigh County, they added a series of 15 separate amendments over 3 ballot questions. So every time there's an amendment that's going to happen in this township, according to what they just told us, there's going to be a petition period, a 10-minute process where they can explain each petition amendment, and we're all going to have to go to the polls and vote on these amendments. We already vote to have supervisors in these positions to make these decisions for us. And now we're going to have to come to all of these meetings to continue to vote on these different referendums or amendments, they're calling them, that they keep referencing. I mean, like Franklin City, 23 amendments into one single proposed question. Lehigh County, 15 separate questions over 3 election periods. And I also think that it's wrong that we get 3 minutes up here to stand and talk in something that's going to change our entire structure of our township when you're going to give somebody who wants to make an amendment 10 minutes up here to talk. I mean, the citizens have a right to speak up and say their mind. Thank you.
So just responding to some of the questions that were asked, I think that there's a bit of a confusion on the amendment process versus the referendum process. Amending this charter would have to be done consistent with the Home Rule Charter Law. If it's adopted, it would have to be amended per the Home Rule Charter Law, which is the same process that was followed here to have the Government Study Commission come in. And I believe that there's a 5-year freeze, and so nothing would be done for another additional, at least another 5 years. The referendum process, in order to initiate that process, it requires petitions bearing the signatures of at least 15% of the voters within the township. So it's, it's tough to imagine that there's a situation where every ordinance that comes in front of the board would be subject to that would receive that kind of attention. But if there is something that receives that 15% vote, then it would qualify for the referendum procedures set forth in there. Again, I'm going to ask you not to shout up in the back to the court reporter. We have people on Zoom, so that you will have an opportunity. So.
Good evening. My name is Rich Koslow, Towamencin resident for 40 years. Just with respect to the last comment about referenda, in California, they have a lot of ballot initiatives, and there are companies out there that will guarantee you if you go to them, and they'll get you the number of signatures that you need to put a ballot
initiative on the ballot. And as a result, California's ballot often has double-digit numbers of amendments to their state constitution, et cetera. We're all familiar with some of the more famous ones, but that could end up being a very thriving business in Towamencin Township if this were to pass. That's just a comment. My actual comment here reflects more of, I guess, the legal aspects, and this is directed to the council. Do you agree with the statement that there are valid yet different legal opinions from credentialed attorneys about the purchase agreement for the sewer, that the purchase agreement for the sewer plant can be reversed by going to home rule? I would appreciate a yes or no answer.
I can only tell you what my opinion is. I haven't spoken to any attorney that disagrees with what I've said.
Well, the township solicitor has something on the township website that would suggest that he differs with that opinion. So,
But I think it depends on how the question is asked.
well, okay. So in that case, I think it is prudent to infer that there could be major litigation necessary to resolve the issue. And I would ask that the home rule charter contain a restriction that does not permit the home rule government to obligate the township to any litigation regarding the sale of a public asset that involves a projected expenditure in excess of $250,000, unless that projected cost of litigation is agreed to in a ballot referendum by the township. Such a stipulation protects the financial assets of the township from abuse. And I would note that protecting the financial assets of the township is one of the provisions that this home rule charter has put up in their mission statement. So that's what I would like to see. I don't see it in the charter as it stands. And what it seems to me is this home rule charter, if it moves to litigation, could obligate the township to significant expenses that we do not now have. There was a back of the envelope calculation done for the last meeting, what that cost might be, but it's not binding on anybody. So that's why I think it is imperative that anything that this home rule charter goes forward with has a prescription against litigation that exceeds a given value. Thank you.
Good evening. Should I pull this down? Okay. Good evening. My name is Pauline Braccio. I live in Towamencin Township. I was coming to these.
Can you spell your last name for the court reporter? I missed it.
Sure. Braccio. I was coming to these meetings, but I'm also very involved in the county commissioners meetings. And for the past year or more, the school board meetings. So I kind of neglected coming to these meetings. And I have to say, I work as I'm a judge of election most of the time, sometimes inspector, but I work in the polls. And all of this that you want, you're assuming that the residents of this township are going to be coming out in force and mass to these meetings. This is the most I've ever seen it. At the commissioners' meetings, nobody shows up. At the school board meetings, nobody shows up. I was not even aware of this until very recently. You've been doing this for 2 months. You're not making yourselves known. This is very suspicious. I do not think that this is being done properly. As a poll worker, I had people coming in on November 8th, and I voted against this, by the way, but I had people coming in and asking me to explain this to them. Okay, I'm not supposed to do that. And I did it. It's not my job. Okay, so I had to tell them, go to your phone, look it up online. You're not making this well known, because I do believe that if it were well known, more people would be against it, not for it. So you guys just bullied your ways in, because whoever voted yes didn't really know what they were voting for. I can guarantee you that. So you kind of just strolled in here, and now after 2 months, you're going to tell the supervisors how to run this township. I was perfectly happy with the way they were running things. And now I'm not going to be happy with what I've learned so far since finding out about you guys. You're what? You're what, 26 years old? You don't even have your own home. You don't pay property taxes. So how are you supposed to come in here with these other people? Do you all live in Towamencin Township? Okay, good. Well,
Yes.
that's a good start. But I just don't see how you can just push your way in here and try to tell everybody else how to do what they're supposed to be doing. I think that Kristen, who was up here first, who is a supervisor, she made it very clear that things have been going on for well over 100 years and they're doing just fine. From what I've been told is that if the sale goes through, that would be a better thing than hanging on to it. So as other people have said, and I'm sure more will say, 2 months is just not long enough. And it doesn't matter if it's a law or not. That makes no difference. How about common sense?
30 seconds, please.
How about common sense? So what? That we don't have to do that because it's not the law. How about doing it because you're a human being and you're trying to control other human beings? How about that? How about using common sense? How about realizing this is a republic? This is not a socialist country. This is not a democracy. This is not ruled by mob. That's not what this is. This country is we elect people to represent us and they make the decisions. And that's been working just fine. How about if we do this on a federal level? Oh, that'd be really great. Thank you.
Thank you. We did mail out our schedule, and this process is defined in Pennsylvania's constitution. So we do have democracy in Pennsylvania. No shouting from the back, please. Please.
I'm going to ask everybody to stop the conversations in the back.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us here. My name is Joe Meehan. I'm a Towamencin resident for a long time. The first thing I'd like to say is, with all due respects, I disagree with your solicitor's interpretation of the timeframe for amendments after a home rule charter is passed. The law, as I read it, just as a layman, I'm not an attorney, just as a layman, says you can't go back to a class 2 township within 5 years, but you could amend it immediately after that. And that leads to the next question. Your slide deck and your report says that it's explicitly stated that the tax rate will stay the same as a class 2 township. Yet when you go into the wording in the charter that you're proposing, it says, until this charter is amended, or such time as the General Assembly shall provide uniform laws on rates of taxation which apply to a municipality with a home rule charter that are stricter to such limitations of a township of the second class, the township shall continue to be subject to the limitations of the rates of taxation which apply to township of the second class. So you could pass this home rule charter and next year come back and amend it and increase the tax, increase the taxes over the second class township tax. The township tax right now as a second class is capped. Under a home rule charter, taxes are not capped. So you could amend that line or that part that you have in the home rule charter immediately after this one is approved. Is that correct?
Yes, but the voters would have to approve that amendment.
Agreed. So you convince the voters to do this now, and then you come back in a year and you change it and you increase the taxes. You change that paragraph and increase the taxes. So that's one thing. Now this is one for the solicitor. I know it might be nitpicking, but since we're talking about the law here, the reference in your preamble it says we do so primarily to reaffirm our right to public ownership of water, wastewater, and stormwater systems as given to us in Article 1, Section 27 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's not what it says. Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution states the people have a right to clean air, pure water, and the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. As trustees of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of all people. It says nothing about stormwater, says nothing about sewer systems. And it's meant to protect the environment. There's nothing about protecting the environment in this sewer sale. So I don't understand why this is even in the preamble.
Sure. The preamble is a artistic choice from the commission. We interpret clean water specifically as the township having to service our sewers.
But there's litigation that has narrowed the definition of how that law can be used. And I'll ask the solicitor, have you ever applied the Payne, what was it called? The Payne criteria to this to see if your definition meets the definition that's really intended by the law.
So the section that you're describing is the preamble, and that is just, again, that's just a preamble. And to Mr. Jose's point, that is an artistic choice of the commission. The actual sections of this this charter that would affect the township, we've verified all those, and we're comfortable that the references in here are accurate.
Okay. I understand what you're saying about the preamble, and I can accept that. But if you're making a document here that's going to be part of the township's history and everything, why not have it accurate? And that application to that law does not apply, in my opinion. Other attorneys could probably give their opinion and see how that works out. But so getting back to the tax increase, I just want to say
Last
that
sentence, please.
okay. Because of that tax item, the possible increase of taxes here, I'm not in favor of the charter, among other reasons. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I just want to clarify a little bit. So an amendment to the home rule charter can't raise taxes per se. An amendment could raise the tax limits, but the ability to raise taxes will always reside with the Board of Supervisors, regardless of who they are. So the only amendment, if one were to be put forth, would be to potentially raise the tax limits. This charter keeps the tax limits at the current second class code.
And just respond, the commission's gonna move on to other public comment, but just to respond to the other point, I apologize if it was not clear. The 5-year limitation is for a change in the form of government. So amendments could come up before that. But again, it would have to follow the process in the home rule charter or the home rule. On that point, yes. It would still have to be voted on. It would still go through this entire process.
Right. We can't pass this charter and then 5 minutes later say, surprise, and then just change the amendment. The amendment has to go through the voting process again. So it's a double vote. So it's not just something that we make up.
Right. If there was going to be an amendment, it would not be done necessarily by the individual sitting up here. It would have to start all the way back at the beginning with the ballot question and all that.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mike Main, Towamencin resident. The study was incomplete and the report is insufficient and incomplete. Only 2 home rule experts were interviewed. Mr. Chapman recommended 9 to 12 months. Just because your schedule and study and draft meets the bare minimum to be compliant with Pennsylvania law, does not mean it's best practices. And I don't know why we wouldn't use best practices in writing a charter that would completely change Towamencin's form of government. It doesn't make any sense to me why we wouldn't use the best practices available to write that. The other expert, Mr. Monero, supervisor of a home rule charter, I believe the closest one to us, said they don't use the home rule provisions just for the reason that was stated before. Not many people have time to attend the meetings or come to the meetings or pay attention to everything. So that's a reason he stated why they stay away from it. He said half the people there don't even, he doesn't feel, know they have a home rule charter. And to his knowledge, there was never a referendum ever used. So for those two reasons, the only conclusion to be made from the study that you performed with your expert testimony is that home rule would not be recommended for Towamencin based on the two experts that were interviewed in their testimony. This report was mostly written on your opinion, not expert testimony. If it was expert testimony, then common sense would lead us to the only conclusion that home rule is not right for Towamencin. That's based on the study you guys performed and the experts you brought. Instead of selling the sewer, your recommendations are to increase taxes, which you've stated twice now is not your job. It's the job of the supervisors just to raise the taxes to make the shortfall for not selling and meeting the township's obligations, and adding a storm fee seems counterproductive to keeping fees and taxes and more money in residents' pockets. And the third option you brought was to sell the sewer to a government entity for what, a third less of the price that Towamencin would be getting now. What in the world sense would that make? That is
30 seconds, please.
just Towamencin is not a small municipality in New England. We're rather a large municipality now. The small municipalities in New England did well for that. They could get their 20 people to come out to a meeting. It represented 20% of their population. That's not Towamencin. So this charter that was drafted with the quick incomplete study, just so we're clear, that could not be amended if it were to be jammed through and written the way it is now. That can't be amended for 5 years. We're stuck with it for 5 years before we can make any changes to it.
It can be amended. We can't go back to the Class 2 Township Code for 5 years.
But I thought that we had just answered a
She just
question
corrected us.
saying the difference between amendment and referendum was it couldn't be amended for 5 years.
The difference with there was some confusion about the referendum process in the charter and the amendment process for the charter itself. To return to the second class township code and do away with the charter completely is a 5-year freeze. That would be
Yes, so the
5-year
question
freeze.
before was about the amendment process.
And
to
again,
amend the charter
I
the
just
way it was
stated that I
drafted.
think I was unclear earlier. The amendment process, I do not believe that there is the 5-year freeze.
So the amendment process would work exactly like the referendum process.
No, it would work as set forth in the home rule charter provisions of state law.
Can you explain that for us then? Because we
It's
haven't
the same
heard that yet.
process that ended up in this commission being created.
So how often could that happen?
It would have to go on ballot questions, so it's self-limiting.
So in November and May, or November or May, how often can we amend what's happening now?
It depends on whether there's things worth amending. I don't know that.
I mean,
Again, it has
Kofi referred to the amendment process several times throughout this entire thing. And almost every meeting we had referred to the amendment process, and we're still unclear of what that process is. It seems like you guys are unclear of what that process is. If we're pushing all of this to the amendment process, we need to be very clear on what that process
Nothing-
is, how long it takes, and what it takes us to get there.
Nothing's being pushed to the amendment process. There was a government study commission created that.
I believe that his words exactly were that we would look at the backyard tax at the amendment process and several other issues that were brought up by Rich Marino and several other people over the last several meetings referred to this amendment process that we're still not clear about.
And do you mind me answering
No,
this last
please.
question? Okay. So we put this information about the amendment process because by the home rule law, we are allowed to amend the charter. And to amend the charter, it is either the Board of Supervisors can pass an ordinance to put an amendment on the ballot, or any residents could collect 10% of registered voters that voted in the last governor's election. And we put that information there in case the township of the future wants to amend the charter. And we're not making any prescriptions on amendments, but we're putting that information there because that is a thing that could happen in a home rule municipality.
Okay.
James Collins, township resident and ratepayer. I think that's an important part of it too, because I will be affected by the sewer sale in toto, whether we sell it or we don't. I will personally be affected. I am not 26. I am a homeowner. And the ironic part of this to me is that when we cut through all the rigmarole and we use common sense, we have to understand that if we sell our sewer system to a private company, it is my understanding that we are subject to whatever rules or pay rates that they put on us. Of course, it has to go through the PUC and all the other rigmarole. But at the end of the day, if we're going to stand here and argue that they're going to bring this magical, mystical legal force down upon Towamencin to make sure we go through with the sale, then I would imagine that they would use that same legal force and that same legal might to raise our rates. It's also a point where we have to understand that there is a distinct separation between the township's pockets and the ratepayers' pockets. The township, Rich got up and he very eloquently said all the things that the township will benefit from through the sale of the sewer. We'll be able to get a homestead benefit. You'll be able to get rid of some of the bonds. We'll be able to get rid of some of the taxes or some of the loans that we have. That's awesome. But at the end of the day, if there's any repairs that have to be done to the sewer system, we are still responsible for it, people. That responsibility doesn't go somewhere else. They charge us back. So we're still paying for that. We're also going to be responsible if they buy another sewer system within the state of Pennsylvania. We as ratepayers can contribute to that purchase as well. And if that sewer system is in disrepair, unlike ours, we have to pay and contribute to fixing their sewer system as well. This is all money that's coming out of our pockets, the ratepayer. So as we stand here and talk about it, let's put it all on the table. Let's be very clear what we're addressing, because we're not just talking about we're selling the sewer system and we no longer have to worry about it or deal with it. This is something we're going to have to deal with whether we as a township owns it or not. Secondly, I would just say for the people up here, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your energy and your effort and the attention you've paid to the wishes of those who elected you to sit in those positions. I'd also like to point out that you have been very clear and transparent. I understand 30 seconds. You've been very clear and very transparent about why you ran for office. It's not a mystical or mysterious thing that you guys are up there. Anybody who came out and voted for this commission understood exactly what they were voting for. We understood. It's not a mistake. These guys aren't sitting up here because people just thought that it'd be something fun to do. So I just would like to say that. Thank you very much for your time.
Would anyone else like to give a public comment?
Bob DiDemizio, resident of Towamencin. That's D-I, capital D-O-M-I-Z-I-O. Thank you. If speaking loud was a way to get elected, you'd certainly get the vote. The idea is get the point across. I'm not in favor of this. I'm telling you right now, I'm voting against it. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that this gets defeated. You've not earned the trust. You've not done the job. That's all what it is. I want to be on record as saying that. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to give public comment?
Christian Fusco, I'm a taxpayer, Towamencin. I just want to say that I do intend to vote in favor of this charter. I do believe that the township has had the opportunity to have lots of one-on-one conversations with a lot of people behind this table who were advocating against the sale to begin with. I think that while there's a strong vocal opposition to this in this room, it's not a sentiment that's shared amongst this community. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that this does get passed. And I have a lot of confidence that's exactly what's going to happen. Thank you all for the work you're doing.
Hi there, Paul Andrews, Valley View Way. Andrews, A-N-D-R-E-W-S. I have a request. If this does go through and we do get a large settlement from it, can we please get cushions for these wooden chairs? I just want to say that this process didn't start 2 months ago. The sewer sale process was over a year and a half ago. There have been many meetings with the township supervisors, with several town halls, and there was lots of vocal opposition to this. If you say you didn't know what was going on, well, then I apologize, but an awful lot of people knew what was going on. These people knew what was going on. I knew what was going on. And normally I don't know what's going on in the township because I've got kids. I'm very busy. I've got a really busy job. So taking this time to come to all these meetings is, it's a little bit difficult for me, as it is for a lot of people. Before the election, we should have all gotten this. If you didn't get it, sorry, but I know an awful lot of people got this. And this was just one piece of mail that we got from the commissioners who laid out what they were going to do, what they were not going to do, and the timeline for doing it. Okay. As James said, they were very clear that they didn't want to tear down the township and start from scratch, which is why everything is being retained as class 2, except for the changes that they want to make. They want to forbid us from selling the sewer. They want to have a referendum. They want to have some clarity about what's going on and some sunshine laws changes. If we had had a ballot initiative, or if we had had a referendum option, that would have been the preferred way to take care of this. The supervisors made an unpopular choice, and if we had had a referendum option, that's what they would have done. This commission is here because this was the only option we had to stop this. If you don't like this process, this is the only option that we had. We didn't have the option of a referendum to stop it directly. We didn't have the option of an election to change the supervisors because A, it would have taken too long because the process would be over by then. And B, they couldn't have changed it because they made a contract. We have to go through this process in order to have a chance of keeping it. The reason why it was unpopular is people figured out that after getting all the money from NextEra, the township would have a nice big nest egg to do projects, which, to be fair, need to be done. There's a lot of good projects on the slate, and I support that, but I also support going through the regular process, talking to the people about it.
30 seconds.
If you have to raise taxes to do it, so be it, but justify them to us that way. We figured out that the benefit to the township is far outweighed by the costs being borne by the ratepayers. Our rates are virtually guaranteed to go up more than the money the township will save. That's the crux of the problem. That's why they're here. That's why we're all here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Gaynor, Gaynor. I'm a resident, a ratepayer. And first, I'd like to thank the commission for their work. As some of my fellow residents have said today, you have stuck to the promises that you made when the majority of our voters voted for you to do this work. These suggestions that it was improper or incorrect doesn't match up with what you were elected to do here. And you've stuck extremely closely to what was in that flyer and what you campaigned on. So thank you. Secondly, I'd like to address the suggestions that stopping the sewer sale is going to leave the township stranded without access to fund our essential services. In PFM's presentation, they outlined that the township does have other options available to them to finance the community. In their opinion, and in the opinion of 4 supervisors, it was preferable to sell the sewer assets. If the home rule charter is passed and the sewer sale is prohibited, it's the citizens' way of saying that other funding sources are preferable. There are 5 tonight that they outlined. We're not leaving Towamencin in a bind. We're saying we don't want to utilize this option. Try again, go back to the drawing board, do what the citizens want you to do. We made ourselves clear last year and you didn't listen. There are other options available to you. And yeah, that might mean raising taxes. That's standard. That's how citizens pool their resources to do the things they want to do. And when we want to do things, we need to talk to each other about it. We can't come to a second town hall last year and say, oh, by the way, the reason we're selling our sewer system is because of XYZ. I'm really concerned why so many in our local government are afraid of raising taxes, but that they can control. They can control the taxes. They can control what that money's spent on, but they're not afraid of leaving the residents and us ratepayers with exorbitant sewer rates that nobody can control, that a private entity can control. So why aren't our elected officials trying to protect us? Why aren't they having these conversations about these are the things we need and this is how we can fund it? And let's do it in a controlled manner that we as a community are in charge of, instead of just turning it over. I remember during the town hall that one of the supervisors said that they looked at this as a generational change for our township, that we'd be so flush with cash that generations to come would benefit. But we can build a strong and healthy community without a slush fund. And honestly, I'm more concerned about a different kind of generational change that could occur with the sewer sale. And if we don't come together, it's the type of generational change where decisions aren't made with the consultation of their citizens and where citizens are ignored. It's a sort of generational change where I have to turn to my kids and say, like, yeah, you can go to a town hall, you can go to a board of supervisors meeting, but you don't have any recourse if a bad decision is made. You'll have to wait a few years until this board of supervisors turns over. So I don't know about you, but I want to leave to the next generation of Towamencin residents strong democratic ideals. I know democracy tonight was kind of poo-pooed. I'm kind of confused about that, but that's something I believe in. And I think a lot of people in this community too. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Chris Kasmar, and I'm a Towamencin resident for 21 years. I'd like to first offer my thanks, gratitude, and respect to all the people that volunteer their time to our local community. Thank you. I'm here tonight because, like you, I'm very concerned. I've attended many of these meetings listening to the issues, and what concerns me most is this home rule charter. I oppose this charter, and here are my reasons. Though the main objective of the government study in this home rule charter is to terminate the sewer system sale, it adds authority for initiatives and referendums. I believe it will result in a small group of residents monopolizing the township's agenda. They will give ordinances great sounding names and carefully worded ballot initiatives to sound like they're doing something good. But in the end, they are underhandedly seeking something that is the opposite of the name of the ordinance. We know that whoever has the power to define the ballot question has the capacity to shape its outcome. Referendums will excessively simplify complex issues and reduce the possible outcomes to two options. Referendums are instruments of direct democracy and give citizens the capacity to express their political views. However, in practice, they become problematic and sometimes used to manipulate people. Per a WHYY article, what is home rule? Home rule can give a lot of power to local leaders or the loudest voices without much oversight from the state. The very fact that a charter can be changed by a simple vote can lead to instability if, say, a municipality changes its charter frequently. The WHYY article further states that perhaps the most common objection is that the Pennsylvania home rule municipalities are not bound by state set tax limits. And even though this charter does not currently propose any new taxes or changes to tax limits, it does allow them through charter amendments. Why does the potential of new and higher taxes concern me? It's because the chairman of the Government Study Commission repeatedly suggests land value taxes and taxes on backyards in public meetings. I believe this home rule charter hijacks the sewer system sale for a much larger socialist agenda, and it will do so through carefully worded and misleading referendums. If you feel the same as I do, please join me in defeating this home rule charter. Thank you. I'll be forwarding this speech along with other supporting information to the 2 local newspapers. Hopefully it'll get into their reporting.
Thank you. Just a comment on the referendum and initiative provisions in the charter. Since 2012, as I explained in the report, there have only been 2 home rule enabled referendum, and they were both very technical charter amendments in Norristown and Horsham. To go through the initiative process repeatedly would mean you have a lot of trust in the township. I can't imagine a group of 5 residents that could repeatedly put ordinance on the ballot, but also couldn't elect different supervisors. This scenario where we're having a group of residents go against the supervisors every election doesn't seem realistic to me. Thank you. Would anyone else like to give a public comment?
Rich Costello, Towamencin resident. I thought these comments were strictly related to the. Okay. I thought the comments were strictly related to the, I guess, the legal issues surrounding the motion. They seem to have gone more toward the finances and other things. And so I had one comment that I wanted to make on the financial section. Throughout this process, I have been insistent that, or tried to be insistent that this committee follow the, I guess, what I expect of a government elected entity for rules and regulations. And the financial analysis that was done and presented at the last meeting I went through it entirely. And there were about 89 specific points in them. a little more than half are either unsubstantiated by the technical data that you've got, or some of them are outright just opinions that have no, they bear on the idea, but they don't necessarily, they aren't necessarily supported by fact. Two examples. My analysis indicates that a $40 million cash asset that the township would accrue as a result of this sale, invested at just a 4.5% interest rate, with only $5,000 added to it each year from the township, could generate a $5.246 million per year benefit to the township in perpetuity. That's 32% of the existing budget revenues of the Towamencin Township in perpetuity. And that particular analysis does not appear in your analysis. It's different. Now, the second thing was you put up a rather complicated algebraic formula at the last meeting that had to do with the finances. I went through that, and I would just note that the equation that you presented makes at least one unrealistic assumption to reach its conclusion. It appears to me to be a clever mathematical trick. The equation assumes that the value of P, which is the bidder's, the bidder's debt service, or the money that they would have to pay to service their debt, rises, but it approaches infinity. You said that in your presentation, and that's what's in the equation. So while this may make the math serve the purposes of the Government Study Commission, it's an infinite amount of debt service is not a very realistic assumption. And so those are the kinds of comments that others have said, that's why we need professional financial analysis for this process. You're not an accountant, I'm not an accountant, but the financial analysis that's been presented so far in support of this has not been vetted by a properly credentialed financial firm. And I would point out to you that PFM is a registered entity under the Securities and Exchange Commission with multiple legally enforceable regulations that prevent it from lying to any of its clients. That doesn't apply to either you or to me. And I think that we should have somebody that has that kind of accountability to deliver the analysis that is to support this one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a response to a lot of the comments about the financial analysis, but just one thing about the algebra. The bidder's side of the equation, the debt service, was finite term, and that was one of the assumptions. It was the township who was in a perpetuity, which is what the supervisors promised, to use the funds forever.
And just to clarify one thing, this is the opportunity for public comment to offer suggestions on revisions of the charter, the report, or the ballot question. The last speaker expressed some confusion about the purpose of public comment. This is the opportunity to speak. There will be no further public comment before the motions are taken. So if anyone has any public comment, now would be the time.
Yes, good evening. My name is Robert Iannozzi. I'm the township solicitor. I was not intending to speak this evening, but with a court reporter being there, I thought it was important for me to go on record and give my legal opinion as to certain things. There's no question that this commission has committed their time, and they want to ensure that this is a charter that they can be proud of and also that's legally enforceable. And I respectfully submit this evening that it is not. This commission did not file the charge of the Home Rule Charter Law 2918. Calling it a study does not make it a study. My grandfather used to say, measure twice, cut once. Mr. Assay's own admission notes that we're at least a year out from the PUC. What's the rush? What's the rush? In reading this document, and it's well organized, well written, but it's fraught with ambiguities that will lend themselves easily to confusion. There's significant constitutional exposure in this document. Your referendum process opens itself up to being violative of the Sunshine Law. All of this stuff can be readily resolved if you take the time provided to you statutorily and rework some of this stuff. Listen to some of the comments that are coming, some of the concerns. Reach out to your supervisors and get it and genuinely study the government. There was no study. I've never seen a situation wherein the end product leads the study. It's the tail wagging the dog. So I respectfully request this evening that this board consider tabling the actions that it's slated to consider this evening and carefully take a look at these provisions and the ambiguities that are contained therein. That's one of the reasons why I got up here tonight. I know it sounds unorthodox for an attorney to talk himself out of more work, assuming I'm still employed at the end of this, but respectfully, these ambiguities now, if we take the time, an ounce of prevention, pound of cure, if we take the time to work through some of those, we won't have to litigate them. You have the time. Go back, review, revise, tighten up. Do the work that this commission was charged to do. And I respectfully submit it again, at the risk of being redundant, calling it a study does not make it so. The voters of this township voted on that ballot initiative. They wanted you to study the government. That study was not done. The understanding in accord with the law, I understand, the understanding in accord with that that this exercise would culminate with a report that would be predicated upon the facts that were presented to the commission. That was not done. And I just want to go on record with that admonition. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as the timeline for the PUC, that year timeline is my estimate, but the Act 537 plan and PFM's projection would put it before the November election.
Joe Silverman, resident for over half a century, followed the township meetings very closely for all those years. I have some documents here. Is this okay? As far as the supervisors listening to us, that's not so. This was 1995, May 15th, Ted Duran. I'm not going to read all the comments. At the bottom, it says here, be responsive to the people. Right here. You can see I save a lot of old documents. This one here is from when Mike Becker and Rich Lanning were running for supervisor. Number 3, bullet point number 3. Says, listen to you and be your voice. So years ago, I thought that this was, hey, this is great. Let's vote for these people. But over all the 50 years, I haven't seen any of this come true. They don't listen. Even presently with Chuck Wilson, he said the same thing. Be responsive to the people, have a referendum for big ticket items. None of that is true. That's why we're here. Very simple.
Would anyone else like to give a public comment?
I just want to say, my name's Peter Giacomucci. I'm a taxpayer, ratepayer. Peter Giacomucci. I'm a taxpayer and a ratepayer. And recently moved into this township. And found out about this whole situation recently. With all the signs, voted in the election for a commission to be established.
Could you speak a little closer to the mic, please?
Voted in the past election for a commission to do a more in-depth study. And this is the first meeting that I was made aware of to attend. And I have to tell you all, I'm still freaking confused because from one end, we have a possibility of raising taxes. And the other end to sell to the sewer to a investment-owned utility company, which I don't know, but when I invest, I want a return. So I don't see our rates decreasing as I've looked on the homepage and seen some projections of if we sell it, the rate's going to increase. My question basically is, how long has this been going on? Because I've also read that there's about 10 to $20 million worth of repairs that needs to be done, which is why they're trying to sell it. How long has this been going on? Why wasn't there a reserve fund put in place for it? And how is going to give a local government more money from the sale, from the proceeds of the sale? Like, instead of putting it towards projects, I think it should go back to the taxpayers' pockets, basically. Because it was mismanaged from the get-go, or this stuff, we wouldn't be here today. They wouldn't be here. So you're going to sell it? Hey, offset the price increase. Give the money back to the taxpayers. There we go. There's a good project for you. Thank you.
Because we are getting lengthy in the public comment, I am gonna ask that if there's any new commenters, if they can give their comment now before we start repeating people that have already had an opportunity to speak. It does look like there's somebody that's new that's coming up to speak.
Okay.
And just a reminder, if anyone has any suggestions that they would like to make regarding amendments to any of the documents, now would be the time.
Joanne Goble, Joanngoble, 603 Heritage Drive, Towamencin. Been a resident for almost 23 years. I just wanted to make a couple of comments that for those who have been unaware of what's been going on, I'm really not sure why. I'm sorry you guys got missed somehow. I was the chair of the NOPE PAC that helped elect these people up here. I personally knocked on doors, talked to people out at parks, Firehouse Park, Inglewood Elementary School. I knocked on doors. We mailed out flyers. I don't know how we missed people, but apparently we did, because some of you say you didn't know about it. You didn't know what the scope was that we were trying to accomplish. I can't go back and change that. As far as the sewer sale goes, I came out at the town halls last year, saw a few faces I recognized tonight, also come out opposed to the sewer sale. And yeah, do I want a tax increase? No. But when it comes to where my money is going to go, I want it to go to Towamencin Township, not some corporate entity, wherever. I don't care if they had chosen to sell to Aqua, but they chose to sell to a company in Florida. I don't want my money going to Florida. I want my money to stay in the township. So if that means they have to raise taxes more, I'll choke on it, I'll eat it, I'll do it. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you to the Government Study Commission for your time and your service.
And again, are there any new commentators that would like to offer any kind of public comment, suggestions, questions before we start repeating any individuals that had already had an opportunity to speak?
I won't even take 3 minutes.
We're following a process of the gentleman behind you. Are you
Okay.
on your way out?
Yeah, I just want to provide a different perspective. I have not been here this long. I've only been in the township for about 5
Could you
years.
state your name? And whether
Yep,
you're-
my name is Brendan Foley. Foley, Foley. And I haven't spent a ton of time here in the township, but I'm really here just to gather information. And I appreciate everyone's sides. And the thing I'm missing here is that the people that are against the study or against voting for the home rule. I'm not hearing solutions. If this is the only option that we have to stop the sale, the privatization of the sewer systems, then what's your solution? We've heard the comments about nitpicking the charter and things like that. That's all well and good. Yeah, maybe they need to work some things out, but if this is the only solution, then I'm behind it. And then that's really all I had to say. Thank you.
Hi, Ken Schmader, SCHMADER, local resident. One quick comment. I don't understand some wording in section 602 where it says that any municipality that we might sell to would have to hold off, I guess, a period longer than 2 years to themselves sell it. If I understand that correctly. And I wondered where the 2-year period came from and how that protects us from being misused.
So this, this provision, allows for a lease of up to 2 years, and it also prohibits the sale or other transfer. So the 2 years relates to the lease or like the lease or assignment.
So after 2 years, if we sell it to another governmental entity, after 2 years, can they in fact do the very thing we don't want done, sell it to the entity that could be put on contract?
No, that there's provisions in this charter that prohibit. So if the township were to sell to another governmental entity, the provisions of the charter require language in that asset purchase agreement that prohibits that governmental entity from then selling it to a non-governmental entity.
For 2 years or forever?
In perpetuity. The 2 years applies to the lease term. The lease can't be for more than 2 years.
So 602, what it allows is for us to approach private industry for a lease. And after 2 years, we would have to go back to market again. So we can't sell with 602.
There are certain municipalities that lease their systems, and Towamencin has not done that. But there are certain municipalities that lease their systems to private corporations that then run the system for, in this case, it'd be 2 years, but some of those leases are for much longer terms.
Okay, well, the way I interpreted the words that you have in here was that after 2 years, they could do the very thing that we don't want done. You might want to check that, make sure that you've got that quite clear. If they can never do that sale.
Yeah,
That's
it reads that the 2 years is how long it can be transferred to someone else.
Okay, well, you've got my concern. You know what I'm talking about here. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone new like to give a public comment?
I wasn't going to do this either, but my name's Laureen Sendell Grant, exactly like it sounds. Spell which, the first or the last? It's quite long. Laureen. My last name is Sendel -Grant. I got to tell you, when I heard that you guys formed this commission to investigate the government's, the government, I thought there'd be a report. This is not a report. Okay. I'm not against this home rule charter, provided it's properly investigated and thought out. I do not believe in changing forms of government to solve one issue that everybody disagrees with. Okay. There are other ways to do that. There's lots.
Sorry, no speaking from the audience, please.
Thank you. And so I just don't believe we have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm going to make a comment about this charter, and that's that. I mean, if everybody, if the majority of voters want a home rule charter, so be it. It's really, section 402 under initiative there, and it says any 5 qualified voters designated as a committee of the petitioners may commence initiative and referendum proceedings by filing with the township manager an affidavit stating their names and addresses and specify, so they can initiate referendum proceedings. 5 disgruntled citizens can get together and initiate a referendum.
The 5 plus the 15% of voters, which is like 15,000 people or 1,500 people.
Then can I suggest that I saw the 15% someplace else, but maybe you need to combine those things in the same paragraph. So that's absolutely and perfectly clear because it is not here.
The following section 403 requires that the petitions be signed by qualified voters of the township in a number equal to at least 15%. The 5 are the committee.
And I get that, but that the 5 people are who?
They're a committee that essentially represent the.
Right.
interests.
So any 5 people that get an idea, any kind of idea, can just form their own committee. And then the government's time is wasted or not, if it's a good idea. But any 5 people, you know how many referendums could be filed?
But those 5 people have to have the signatures of 15% of the registered voters in Towamencin Township. Otherwise, it goes nowhere. But there's only 5 people, it goes nowhere. Other than public comment at a supervisor's meeting. for example.
Then I just suggest you combine those paragraphs into one paragraph. Because it's not clear the way it's written now. That's all I'm saying, okay?
Hi, everybody. Mike Hunsicker, Hunsicker, Towamencin resident for 14 years, homeowner. I'm educated. I know what I'm voting on. So everyone else's comments, I do a lot of research, represent a large portion of my neighborhood who couldn't make it tonight because they're home with their families, which is where I'm sure we would all like to be. So I'll try to be brief. 2 things I can promise for all of you here are death and taxes. I would rather retain an asset and control it than sell it for a short-term gain that I don't get the profit from. So I appreciate everyone's comments, insights, and this is a democracy. That's why we're listening to both sides. So that's the way it works. That's how our country was built, by a small group of people representing a larger constituent. So thank you.
Would anyone new like to give a public comment? You 2 can go ahead.
Pauline Braccio. I've been a resident of Towamencin Township for 21 years. I agree with what Laureen was saying. It seems to me that this commission was put together for one issue only. And I think that's where I find it a little difficult to accept, because you want to come in here and change a lot of things for one thing. I think the sewer issue can be resolved in another way. And I don't think that we needed anybody to be voted on. And I work in the polls, and I'm not lying. People came in, they had no idea, and they just voted yes or no, depending on what they wanted to vote that day, how they felt. It wasn't that they were knowledgeable at all. And that happens quite frequently when there are referendums on the ballot. Kofi, I was told, and I don't know, so I'm asking you, did you go to other counties and were in the same kind of position doing different types of studies? I'm just trying to clarify, because I was told a lot of information and I don't know what's real and what isn't. I think that's why I'm having a problem here tonight, because there's just a lot of things that were being said that I heard that was not what you are presenting here. But what you are presenting here, as Laureen said, and as the township solicitor said, I agree, table it. Why do it tonight? What's the rush? 2 months? That's really not long enough. It's not presented as a study. I didn't see any data. I saw a lot of, oh, this was a concern. It came from here, here, and here. Here's the solution. It came from here, here, and here. But there was no data attached to that. And so we just have your word for it. So, I don't know you. I don't know any of you. So why should we vote in favor of what you guys want to do when you did not prove that you actually did a study, got the data together and presented it to us in a reasonable, understandable presentation. So I really do strongly suggest you table it for tonight. Wait till after the town hall. It's like putting the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse. You're going to have a town hall. Well, you're already voting on it tonight. So what's the point of it? And you can take your time. There's no rush. There's no asteroid coming towards the earth. We're going to be here for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to give a public comment?
Hi again, Joe Meehan, Township President. I would just like to ask a question about going forward from here. I'll assume, not that I agree with it, but I'll assume that you're going to approve the 3 motions here tonight. And I ask, now that you approve them here tonight, can they change before within the period between now and 60 days before the election? Will you change them, or are they locked in per tonight?
So the commission has discussed already amending the document that's the charter to include section 605 that was read in earlier, which deals with the North Penn Water Authority. And Mr. Asay also discussed minor changes that we've made to the report to fill in dates and things of that nature.
Okay, filling in the dates is not a problem, but any other changes, I mean, when is the public going to see that before it gets on the ballot?
So the commission will be mailing the report to everyone in the township after the March 15th meeting when they approve the expense.
The entire township's not going to have the opportunity to review the final report. In other words, this is not the final report tonight. The final report and the final charter document and the final ballot question. This is what I'm asking. Are they locked in tonight? And you're saying they're not. This is the public hearing for these documents. And you say you're going to change them between now and when it gets submitted to the
Did not say that. I said that there's been some changes referenced tonight. And then the final documents, once those changes are made, will be mailed out to the
Well,
township residents.
aren't you saying that that's a change?
The changes have already been discussed tonight.
So to clarify, the one change, we're adding one section regarding the North Penn Water Authority.
Okay.
We're adding the date to the report, and
Okay.
then we're adding minor changes to the report, but the actual charter is final, except maybe some spelling changes. But the charter itself, if we vote to approve it tonight, would be the one that's going to be presented to voters.
Okay.
There are not going to be any substantive changes.
Okay. Well, the one is the sale to the water authority. Could you just briefly go over that one yet?
Yeah. So the North Penn Water Authority is incorporated by 10 municipalities, and we would like to avoid causing any legal trouble in our charter by targeting them. So we excluded them from the provisions of the charter.
So the language, this section was added to make it clear that the intent is not to require the township to withdraw from the North Penn Water Authority or to require the authority to be dissolved or reincorporated or anything like that. That's
Okay.
the language that's in there.
So locking in those items that you just spoke to here, that the documents will reflect those changes only between now and when it goes on the ballot. Or it
Correct.
goes,
And as Mr. Asay said, there might be, non-substantive changes as far
Okay.
as, spelling or
I-
formatting.
that's,
but
that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm
there's not gonna be
concerned
any
about
substantive
anything.
changes.
I have seen where other townships have made changes up to within a couple days before the charter was submitted to the ballot, and they're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. You have to do it 60 days from election, backing up from 60 days from. Okay, thank you.
We're approaching 9, so if only new people could comment for the rest of this hearing, please.
My name is Holly Bechtel, Bechtel, Culp Road resident of Towamencin Township. And I am not necessarily opposed to home rule charter. I have been from the beginning opposed to the sale, even though it doesn't directly affect me the way it would people who are on public sewer, because we are on well. But what concerns me is, again, I do feel the same way as the solicitor brought up, that I haven't seen a study of, and that's what I thought I was voting for back in November. So I'm confused at that. And I don't understand, I feel like there's a lot of ambiguity in this report that makes me concerned. And I am typically not a one issue voter. I probably would be, except for the fact that I feel like there's more unknowns in initiatives, referendums and amendments of what could be than what is in the sale. And I think that is what is concerning a lot of people. As somebody who owns a good amount of land in this township, we're concerned what referendums or amendments could be made to tax laws that would have us pay more than people that might own a quarter lot. That concerns me. So there's a lot of ambiguity there that makes me feel uncomfortable about the home rule charter moving forward.
Just to respond though, the amendments are an implicit part of the home rule law. So regardless of what type of charter we write, we would have to have that amendment process in there. And the thinking of this commission and why we voted to study referendum as well is, if the Towamencin residents are willing to go through this entire process for the sewer sale, I believe they would be okay with the idea of having referendum and initiative in the charter. Would anyone new like to give a public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to read the emailed comments and also give a response to some of the comments from last meeting. This first email comment is from Joseph Speets. I am a resident of Towamencin Township. I live in Schwenksville Manor at 1290 Allentown Road. I am extremely opposed to the township sewer sale to a private concern. I have been living in the township for over 13 years with no incident at all with the water or sewer service that we presently have. My fear is that situation will change if it is taken over by a private party, and that party may have little or no experience in that field. I also fear that if the sewer works is turned over to another concern and they decide to increase rates, I and many township residents will be affected with higher rates. Where I live, if the rates go up, I will have to pay more for my rent. With inflation that is skyrocketing, we do not need extra costs to live where we live. Thank you for allowing me to speak up about this issue. The next emailed comment is from Trudy Phillips. I support the thorough work that the study group has undertaken to assure fairness in the governing of Towamencin Township. The importance of maintaining competent local control of our sewer system is not to be understated. We have been fortunate to have skilled individuals in these positions. Short-term gains sought by the funds promised from NextEra, a company which will need to rely on the expertise of a contracted party and who must benefit shareholders, is not a just fit for this township. I appreciate the examination of processes currently used to make decisions. Towamencin has changed greatly over these past 30 years, and ensuring that the composition of the Board of Supervisors reflects the population is paramount. All voices should be heard and all individuals registered to vote should have easy access to do so. The next comment is from Nancy Becker. Commissioners, I am unable to attend tonight's meeting. Therefore, I would like to submit my comment. Under activities, it is noted that the GSC did the following: reviewed Class 2 Township Code and other state laws, reviewed other municipalities' charters, reviewed how other states approach municipal issues, hosted interviews and presentations at public meetings. 1, there is no evidence and there is nothing in the attached bibliography or references that the GSC did any out-of-state reviews other than Baltimore City, Maryland. There is no information provided on how other states approach municipal issues, just a brief reference to the fact that the commission conducted such a review. The references provided show that the commission reviewed other municipalities in the Commonwealth, but no information provided except information on Plymouth Township and Norristown on any outcome of those reviews. You are supposed to demonstrate the work you've done. On your list of interviews, can you please include specific dates of those meetings and some type of summary of the discussion? And if your only substantive discussions were with Mr. Monero, Mr. McMahon, and Mr. Chapman, then I'm not sure how you can suggest it's a thorough or comprehensive review. We know that Tony Bolito of North Penn Water Authority is on your list for the next meeting. Again, one more interview doesn't make for a comprehensive study. Mr. Chapman of DCED suggested a 9-month review is effectively the minimum for a government study commission review. And he did not, as you submit, answer a handful of pre-submitted questions. He answered many questions and had some fairly firm recommendations on the length of time and what it takes to do a thorough home rule study. Why did you ignore his recommendations and decades of experiences? Under concern number 1, the report states it is the study commission's opinion that it is unlikely that adopting this charter would cause a lengthy and expensive lawsuit that ends with the township being ordered to sell the sewer system. We have confirmed this idea with the commission solicitor and believe an expensive drawn-out legal battle is unlikely, but acknowledge that this use of home rule is legally untested. Is this an experiment to you? I read it's the commission's opinion. It's unlikely that adopting the charter would cause a lengthy and expensive lawsuit. The solicitor believes an expensive drawn-out legal battle is unlikely. And then you acknowledge this use of home rule is untested. Is there a legal opinion or legal precedent upon which this conjecture is based? Otherwise, that's all it is, conjecture and opinion. The fact that you're playing beat the clock with this effort is on full display at every meeting. You show no meaningful work or detail in this draft report of your analysis of governance in other communities. Frankly, this would get an incomplete as a middle school term paper. You just expect us to go on faith and change our form of government based on your singular fixation on the sewer sale. That's what the report is, a recitation of your grievances with the Towamencin government, prior discussions, and the sewer sale. And you've torn this township apart for that singular fixation. The commission shows no evidence, as DCED suggested, that you compared and contrasted Towamencin government with home rule and non-home rule communities in the Commonwealth and in other states. This is not a comprehensive report of any kind. Based on information from DCED, you have short-circuited this process and in doing so have ignored your duty as commissioners to provide a complete comparison and contrast so that citizens can decide. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to submit my comment. The next email public comment is from Brian Gaynor. I am a Towamencin resident and I support the draft home rule charter. I believe that it will put in important measures for transparency in our local government, enable citizen-led decisions making for important issues that impact the community, and enable us to stop the sale of our sewer system through all legal means. I firmly believe that a public asset such as a sewer should be owned and governed in and by the community it serves, not an out-of-state corporation led by profits and shareholder interest. And that was the last email comment. And then the responses to the March 1st public comment. A lot of those comments were regarding the sewer cell analysis, so I'm going to respond to all of them at once. First, as far as presenting both sides of the analysis, the township paid for PFM to do the pro sale side, and all that information is still on the township website. The commission does not feel the need to spend our tax dollars on the side of the analysis that has already been produced. I have criticism of the PFM's stated benefit, but we use their yearly benefit number to be fair. As far as the requisite background to do this type of analysis, Mr. Shearer at PFM has an undergraduate degree in actuarial science. I have an undergraduate degree in applied and computational mathematics and work as an actuarial analyst. Mr. Shearer and I have very similar training, and I don't doubt his team's technical ability. Supervisor Marino commented that he felt the sewer sale decision was a financial problem, not a math problem. In pursuit of my credentials, I passed an exam titled Financial Mathematics. I don't understand the distinction. The exam has a 48% pass rate among a cohort of people who study college level finance and mathematics. I'm proud of passing actuarial exams, and I don't doubt my ability to do this type of analysis. So we have two sets of analysis from two capable parties. Why did we come to opposite conclusions? It's because we had different assumptions. This commission believes anyone who would bid for our system expects to make their money back. PFM has said on the sewer evaluation site that these companies don't always make their money back. The assumption that the bidder would not make their money back is plausible for Next Era because of market penetration, but does not make sense for any of the other bidders. Using PFM's TMA projection as a baseline, every single bidder offered Towamencin at least $40 million for free. Franconia Sewer Authority had lower rates than PFM's TMA projection and offered us $23.5 million. So they were projected to service that loan, do the $36 million in upgrades, and give us a discount on sewer rates. The Carlisle Group had near parity rates with PFM's TMA projection. They were offering us nearly the entirety of their bid for free, according to PFM. Aqua and PA American Water had lower rates than their current rates, despite Pennsylvania's uniform tariff laws. Both have at least 100 years in experience in water and wastewater. I don't see any reason why they would offer Towamencin an illegal discount on sewer rates. Multiple entities offered Towamencin tens of millions of dollars in cash and sewer upgrades without expecting to recover their investment. That is the assumption you're taking if you believe the sewer sale is beneficial. With the commission's assumption that the bidders make their money back, I presented an algebraic proof. I'm not sure anyone appreciated it. The algebra was agnostic to bid price. This is a first principle concept of the time value of money. A longer annuity has lower payments, all else equal. The township was proposing to use the fund as a perpetuity. The bidder would need a finite term annuity in excess rates to make their money back. More money would be going out of the township than would be coming in from the interest on the fund. I'm not inherently against public bathrooms, but Towamencin is a municipality, not a business. We're not going to get a return on investment on building extra bathrooms at our parks. If Towamencin could invest in a way that would be beneficial, Next Era would not offer us money and would instead take that arbitrage opportunity. As far as the request to make plans for the township's finances, the world where the sewer sale is beneficial is a world where the supervisors have strong plans. We are talking about a perpetual benefit. Independent of home rule, this sale has not gone through, may not go through, and if it goes through, may take a few years. Are you all really telling me that the talented public servants who have plans for this money that span an eternity don't have a contingency plan? I don't live in that world, to be clear. We haven't updated our comprehensive plan since 1989. We haven't updated our 5-year strategic plan since 2007. We've had requests to produce financial plans from a supervisor, from multiple planning commission members, and from a strategic planning committee member. All those agencies of Towamencin Township are in a much better position to produce those plans than the Government Study Commission. As far as the self-imposed timeline, this is an elected office. And when a community elects people, they elect their biases. There was a slate of candidates who promised to do a long study and promised to not even look at the sewer sale, and none of them got elected. There are at least 1,200 people in this township who know exactly why this commission is doing the study the way we are and are supportive. Some of them have given public comment expressing their support of the study as being performed. Having this timeline is a community request, not self-imposed. The publicly released timelines to close on the sewer sale put closing in the second half of the year, but before the November general election. I doubt that timeline, but I know too much about probability to gamble, hence the May primary proposal on tonight's agenda. As far as my trust in Harrisburg, the PUC, the Board of Supervisors, and PFM, I do trust Harrisburg. The memo for Act 12 says it was meant to address distressed systems. We don't fit that category, so we should not be selling according to Harrisburg's opinion. I trust the PUC to follow their current policies, which means our rates are going to at least triple. I trust the Board of Supervisors to empower our municipal authority to run the sewer system, as has been the case for decades. I trust PFM to be as wrong as they always are. They have a disclaimer that says they don't verify sewer rates in a sewer sale analysis. Being bonded and insured doesn't exactly mean anything when we aren't allowed to file a claim. And I'll close.
Yes, unless there's any further discussion amongst commissioners, a motion to close the public hearing would be appropriate.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
And with that, the public hearing is closed. The court reporter will continue taking down a transcript regarding the 3 motions that are pending.
I need a motion to approve a draft home rule, the draft home rule charter.
Motion.
And just to be clear, that motion is as amended as discussed tonight with section 605. And Mr. Cohen is nodding his head yes.
Motion.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And I need a motion to approve a report of the Government Study Commission as amended.
Motion. Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? None, motion carries. And I need a motion to approve the home rule charter ballot question for the May 16th, 2023 primary.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? None, motion carries. And the last thing on our agenda is the open public comment period. We're past 9, so if you have anything else you'd like to comment, please make one comment. Would anyone else like to give a public comment?
Rich Marino, Boyd Avenue. Towamencin resident. Just a question for the commission in the interest of transparency. But as I've phrased my questions before, assuming that everything goes through and you're successful, the new home rule charter takes effect on July 1st. What happens then? My question is, Kofi, you were quoted in the paper as saying that they're definitely going to get sued. Could you guys elaborate on who is going to sue and who will be sued, or how the litigation is going to go forward once the home rule charter, if it does take effect on July 1st?
Sure. I believe you're referencing my quote in the Inquirer. Yes.
I'm not sure where I saw it, but they're
Yeah.
definitely going to get sued.
So what I was referencing is if the Board of Supervisors, in spite of the charter, still attempt to close on the sewer sale. So that would be residents suing the township for not following their charge.
So it would be township residents suing the township itself.
Yes, but that's if you continue to go through with the sewer sale.
Would you be suing the Board of Supervisors?
I don't know exactly, to be honest.
I think it's premature to speculate on what the litigation would look like if there is litigation based on several contingencies.
I'm just think people should know we've spent a lot of time focusing on this. Assuming you're successful, what happens then?
Sure. And there are multiple opportunities not to have a court battle over the sewer sale. And we hope the township is cooperative, and we hope Nexera is cooperative, but it is unpredictable what exactly is going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Would anyone else like to give a public comment?
Do I have to announce myself again?
Yes.
Pauline Braccio. Just from what Mr. Marino just said, I didn't even hear about this litigation. I'm still confused. Were you commissioned because of the sewer sale? Because it seems like that is your objective, is to stop the sale. And I don't know what the rest of it is. And now you're still continuing with that, okay, now we're going to be sued because of it. So the home rule thing is just a guise. I'm not even sure what that's about. So could you explain what you mean by home rule? Because you talk about, from what I understood, if you have home rule, there's no limitation on how much you can tax. You can raise the tax, to whatever it is you want. Then you're saying, no, we wrote it in there that it's not, but then there can be amendments made. It's very convoluted. It's terribly convoluted. And I would rather read that big book through instead of just wondering what's going on. And I have lived here. And I know, and Mr. Fusco over there is with the school board. He can tell you how many people show up to the school board meetings. Like nobody. I attend every county meeting and nobody shows up for those. I'm not trying to insult. Look how it emptied out. I'm not trying to insult the citizens at all, the residents at all. But nobody shows up to these meetings. And if you send something out in the mail, it may get read, it may not. So if home rule is contingent on the residents being active participants, I think that's not going to happen very well. And I haven't seen anything when you talk about Baltimore City or Florida or whatever you talked about, how many other municipalities exist with home rule with a smaller number or a bigger number of people in Towamencin Township that are absolutely successful, that it is like utopia. I just would like to know that information. Do you have anything on that?
No one has repealed their home rule charter, so the assumption is every home rule municipality in Pennsylvania are satisfied with having home rule charter.
And how long have they had them?
Some of them for 50 years now.
Okay. And what is their population?
Varies. Some are very small. Some are smaller than Towamencin, and some are.
That's what I'm saying. So you have a smaller group of people, they're going to be more involved in their community. But when you have a larger number of people, and it's not an insult to anybody, I'm saying it's hard to get to these meetings. I'm retired. Okay. I have the time. I can go to every commissioner meeting. I can go to the school board committee meetings. And I stopped coming here because felt like I was going to too many meetings. I'm going to start coming back now, obviously, because I don't understand. It's like, are you about the sewer sale, or are you about changing the way we're being
30 seconds,
numbered?
please.
What?
30 seconds, please.
I didn't hear you.
30 seconds, please, to finish your comment.
Okay, well, that's my question. So are you about home rule, or are you about really just stopping the sale? I'm still not sure what your purpose was, because you didn't do a study. You didn't give a report that was informative and detailed. So, you know, all the things you said were very vague. Here's the problem. Here's how it was brought up. Here's the solution from this place, from that place. But you didn't give details. You didn't say, well, this is how it was solved. So we still have no more information than I did, 2 months ago. Nothing.
Sure. And just to answer your question, we did vote to study how the sewer sale could be stopped with home rule, which we heavily relied on our solicitor. We did study how home rule could add referendum options. That's what we voted on, and we were looking at other charters for that. And we did study transparency provisions, and we were looking a lot at other websites. And to be clear, again, there were 14 people on the ballot, and there was also a ballot question. If people didn't know what they were doing, it would have been 4 people from the people up here and 3 people from the other people that were ran, and the ballot question would have been around 50-50. It was statistically unlikely that Towamencin residents didn't know what they wanted.
No, I don't think you know voters. I've been working in the polls. You don't know voters. I'm sorry.
Would anyone else like to give a public comment?
Rich Costello, I have one quick question. What's the text of the ballot initiative? You didn't present that tonight. I didn't see it.
It was
So-
read into the record.
So you voted on this, but nobody's seen the text of the ballot initiative other than the committee?
We did read it into the record, and it is in the draft report, and I'll read it again. Shall
Okay.
the home rule charter contained in the report, dated, and whenever we put the date, that's sometime next week, presumably, of the Government Study Commission, prepared in accordance with the home rule charter and optional plans laws, be adopted by the second-class township of Towamencin. And our interpretive statement is if the majority of voters choose yes, a new home rule charter would be adopted by Towamencin Township on July 1st, 2023. Should the majority of voters choose no, the existing second-class township code and all its existing provisions will remain in effect.
Okay. It would have been nice to put that on a slide. That's because I mean,
Sorry about
you read something like that in the middle of a very long meeting. It's tough to absorb. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to give a public comment? Seeing none. Would any of the other commissioners have anything else to say? Would anyone like to motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.